Welcome to the March 5th, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, in the podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I am your host, Trips Over Words,
Good
and
save.
This is...
What a segue. Lotus Prince.
And OldManStompy.
Oh, nobody else wanted to trip over the words
The OG
either.
three-back... never mind.
But, yeah, we have a ton to talk about this week. God, is the world a disappointing place. Especially on Twitter, where most of this happened.
Oh, boy.
But, yeah, there's a lot of doozies. Some that I don't even think you guys are quite aware of yet. But there's some bullshit. But I want to first bring up the big one, which is THQ Nordic. What the fuck?
Yeah, they done fucked up, son. So for people who don't know, THQ Nordic, I believe, are the team behind the Darksiders games, or at least the new one.
Correct. They inherited the THQ name after THQ folded.
Yeah, there was like a split. Yeah.
And they also were making some of their games before they inherited Darksiders, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget when Nordic's games made before this, but I can look it up. But anyway,
while you're looking up, basically, like, I don't know, like what they did on Twitter. Well, what they announced on Twitter, it was like so tone deaf and boneheaded that someone thought that it was like a creative way of getting fired. Like, maybe I just want to get fired and I'll go out in a blaze of infamy. But in any case, THQ Nordic, and on the tweet's deleted so you won't find it now, but THQ Nordic had posted a tweet saying, hey, in so-and-so hours, like 2 hours or whatever, we're going to do an AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything.
Which is pretty normal and a good way to get the word out and, interact with fans.
Yeah, like Ask Me Anything is just, hey, everybody, make posts and I'll respond to as many of them as I can. And a lot of times it happens on Reddit, but that's
what they're famous for. That's what Reddit...
Reddit's had like some like movie stars on there. It's pretty cool.
Reddit got famous because of that. That's why Reddit is as mainstream as it is because of AMAs. If you ask me.
THQ Nordic didn't go the Reddit route though. They went to fucking 8chan, which I didn't realize was a thing.
Which isn't 2chan or 4chan.
Yeah, I was like, is that the Japanese one? No, that's 2chan. Like, for those of you who may not know, 4chan, I mean, there are subgroups that can be fun, I guess, but basically it's a cesspool, and 8chan is the worst version of 4chan. Like, 4chan pretty much, it doesn't, like, a lot of social media sites have their own sets of rules, and you gotta agree to terms of service. 4chan doesn't really have rules. Like, the only rules it has are, like, don't literally break the law. Like, just about the only things you're not allowed to post are, like, death threats and child porn, and 8chan's a little more lax in that regard.
And not only that, but, like, 4chan, like, self-polices in that regard. They will actually get you arrested if you break those two rules.
Even if only for selfishness. Like, don't make the rest of us look bad, and 8chan's just a fucking, like, literal, well, not a literal hive, but it's a hive of literal scum and villainy.
That didn't fit in on 4chan, which are people that didn't fit in at Reddit.
Yeah. So here's the thing about this. THQ posted we're going to do an AMA on 8chan. Now, a couple things. One, the stuff we just said. Two, that's, like, proportionally speaking, that's kind of a niche site. Like, this is a weird place to go.
Who goes there, really?
Well, scum and villainy. But the third thing... This is the thing that really got me, which made some people wonder if this was just a calculated career suicide move, like I'm just going to get myself fired, because, like, let's say, for some stupid reason, that they really didn't know what this site was, even though you should Google that shit, like, every single response, well, not everyone, but most of the ones that I saw, like, every single top response was like,
Nobody was like, oh, cool, an AMA.
Yeah, like, maybe, like, a lot of people were like, wow, dude, like, you better think twice about this. And the thing is, you know that THQ saw these responses, because they replied to a couple of them with, like, oh, don't worry, it'll be cool. And, mysteriously, and for reasons I can't begin to understand, after the AMA was over, there was a heartfelt apology about how we didn't know, and like, oh man, sorry, this was, yeah, like, oh whoops, and like that post is still up on Twitter last time I checked, and the guy like signed off with his name and position of like some HR manager or something. So like, as I saw somebody on Discord say like, they got somebody to fall on their sword. What the fuck was that all about? Like, what was that?
I mean, let's remember that, like, when you're doing a press junket for, like, a game that's coming out, or you know, like, any major press release, you're going to get requests for, you know, social media interviews from hundreds and hundreds of websites, I'm sure. And so, this is not to excuse anything that happened, but, like, I'm sure there's some, like, doofus, you know, working as an intern who just signed up for this interview without really thinking about it. You know, that's really giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, what really scares me is a situation where, like, somebody actively wanted this to be a thing that they did to legitimize, like, 8chan as a site, which is not entirly unplausible.
No, but
wait.
Yeah.
I have to say something that neither of you two know at this point. They checked the guy who made the decision for this, and he was a major stockholder in the company.
So I had heard something along these lines, like when there was a rumor that it was somebody relatively high in the company that this wouldn't have been signed off, like, for no particular reason, you know, like when the news first came out. I kind of like, so what's the source on that? Where did that news come from?
Twitter, where all good things come from.
So I mean, I believe it as much as anything else.
Okay.
What I was going to say though regarding OldManStompy is like, maybe it was this, maybe it's that. Even with the less stupid option, like, again, people piled on with the like, this is a terrible idea responses, and they were posting screenshots of like, just examples of this is not safe for work kind of site to post your AMA on. And they're just like, no, it'll be fine.
It just reeks of, like... even if this wasn't your job to make these decisions, like, if you saw all of these posts on Twitter, why wouldn't you look into it at least and be like, boss, maybe we shouldn't do this? This is a major issue.
Yeah, but they had cutesy, like, don't worry, wink, it'll be fine. Like, I don't mean wink emoji, but they had that kind of, like, chipper attitude about it, and it's like, no, dude, this is not okay.
Yeah, so what it absolutely reeks of is a publicity stunt, to me.
Sure, but, like, congratulations, now your company looks bad. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're thinking that maybe Darksiders 3, which I actually believe that didn't do as well as they thought it would. Yeah. Hasn't been doing well enough, so any news is good news.
I mean, that I don't agree with. They just reported that it cleared its development costs, so everything it makes from this point on is profit. It should be doing at least that well.
Okay, then
seemed like a positive press release.
Then they're out of the hole, so they're really good because Steam games have a long tail, especially like AAA titles like that. So you know, people will be buying that during Steam sales for a very long time. So that'll be raking in revenue for a good long time. So I don't know. I mean. This 8chan's well known for child porn and white power groups.
Yeah, and like doxing. Like, apparently there's a subgroup like dedicated toward like targeting people you don't like. And the thing is, like, I'm going by what other people say because no fucking way am I gonna like put that site on my search history.
No way. In fact, one of the most damning things about it is that you can't actually find it via Google. They have blacklisted it. Yeah, so you can't find, because of their policy of no policy. Yeah. Google refuses to let you search for it directly.
Too shitty for Google, and again, as you mentioned, Vice, too shitty for 4chan, which is kind of legendary. Like 4chan, like I said, its groups have its ups and downs. There are more notorious groups than others, but like in general, you should never be kicked off of 4chan. Like, you got to be really shitty for that to happen.
Yeah, because that's where you go to troll. I mean,
yeah,
honestly.
4chan, like, I mean, like, I don't know about you, Vice, but, like, I checked around it when I was in college, when it was all, like...
Back then,
edgy.
it was like okay to go there for humor reasons. I would say, but
it depends on the day. Even
Yeah.
then, it was kind of shit. I pretty much frequented like the comics and cartoon board and the video game board, and those were like way more like what they should be.
I never went there. I always got my distillation from you and other friends. So
The funny thing is, I actually first heard about Channel Awesome before it was called Channel Awesome, from 4chan, from the comics and or maybe from the video game board, because someone had linked to like the Nostalgia Critic saying like, oh, this guy's like the angry video game nerd except for movies.
Yeah.
So basically, like I started my YouTube channel indirectly because of fucking 4chan.
Well, I don't have too much else to say because I've already damned them. But and we have a lot of shitty other things to move on to. God damn it!
They're
This
not,
week.
I mean, well, the others are more like.
No, you didn't check down the line. I'll get to the Zanki Zero thing.
Yeah,
I know what this is about.
that's just like it's coming censored and for good reason. Like,
let's move on to that. If now that we're talking about it, unless anybody has anything else to say about THQ Nordic, I think you guys feel the same
Not
way I do.
particularly. A-Chan sucks, and THQ Nordic, whoever made the decision's a fucking dumbass. The end.
Oh. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this because it's definitely something that I can talk a lot about. It's known that being a content moderator for like Twitter, for like news page comment sites, for Reddit is like a hellacious job. For YouTube, a content screener.
Yeah.
Like these are jobs that give people PTSD. They're so bad.
No doubt.
And sites like 8chan are sites that exist for people who think that the content moderation system is too strict. Like this is where that content that like drives people to like depression and insanity working for YouTube. This is where that content winds up. So like this is not a place. It's not a happy place where you.
No, it's just abuse and cynicism.
Yeah.
It's just at best it's abuse and cynicism. There's just straight up illegal and criminal activity going on there that abuses people that aren't involved at all. You go in there and get abused. I don't really feel all that sorry, but they abuse innocent people there, and children at that. So fuck that shit, man. I am not down with that. Good point. Okay, so I'm going to mention this in the same breath because it is kind of similar. It is a similar line of thought. So Zanki Zero was just announced for a North American release by Spike Chunsoft. It is looks like to be an offbeat dungeon crawler game, like a first-person dungeon crawler, like we talked about, with a it looks like your characters are cloned over and over again and are kind of made stronger. It's kind of like a cubivore, almost like what's that PlayStation 3 game? Tokyo.
Oh, it's just one with the animals, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Tokyo Jungle. Yeah.
Tokyo Jungle feel to it.
Yeah, like this is like you're trapped on an island, and like you said, you're clones, but you only get to live until you're 13 days old, at which point you're reborn. So like that actually sounds really interesting and quirky. Like I kind of want to pick this up now that it's been again. I hate censorship, but I think I'll do without the content for this one.
So they announced improvements that they're making to the game and also the exact things that they're censoring. So good on them for just straight out and coming out with it rather than like hiding it. But the things that are censored, well, first of all, DLC swimsuit DLC is included in the game, which is good. This is the North American version. They lowered the difficulty on the lowest difficulty, which is great for people who just want to play the game for the story and all that stuff. The English voiceover option, dual audio, very nice.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Overall game balance and UI improvements. Nothing bad there. So the censorship, though, is that in order to conform to public storefront display standards, images that can be interpreted as too sexually provocative must be modified. I have no problem with packaging art being changed.
There's
that
stuff like,
happens all the time.
There's stuff like panty shots are censored and stuff like that.
Don't care.
Yeah.
you got to put on a good face on the shelf, no problem. Okay.
I mean, if Senran Kagura can get away with what they have, then like our standards aren't that high for storefront.
Yeah. In the Japanese release, Sachika's panties are visible. This is effectively a 6 to 8 year old girl. In the Western release, Sachika is wearing pajama bottoms.
And not only that, if you really want to get technical with this stuff,
less than a day old.
They're all 13 days. Yeah, like they're like a week and a half old. Like
we're talking about presenting as.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
we're not going to go into the discussion of this 8-year-old girl is actually 4,000 years old, so it's
born
okay.
Yesterday, yeah.
No, fuck off. That's an 8-year-old girl. Okay. Sachika CGI opening scene. In the Japanese release, Sachika's panties are visible. In the Western release, the camera angle has been raised to not show her panties. Okay. This is very minor stuff, and also I don't want that, so...
It's the Senran Kagura stuff again. Like, I'll manage to survive somehow without the underage girl panty shot. Like, Jesus Christ.
In the Japanese release, Child Rinko, this is, I think, the busty-looking woman, but, you know, they all start off as children, because they're cloned in the beginning of the day. Covers her chest with her arms. In the Western release, the positions of her arms has been adjusted. I'm assuming to make it less revealing.
Yeah.
Not more. And all child bedtime event cutscenes have been removed.
Well,
I don't even want to know what the fuck that means.
That's the part that killed me, because when I saw this mentioned on a Discord chat, like, somebody had said, like, I can only imagine what this was, that, like, the entire scene, like, all of the scenes were just straight up removed, like...
For all of the characters.
Yeah, like, not adjusted, like, wholesale removed, like, whoa, like, dare I even try to look up what we're missing? Maybe I shouldn't.
Okay, so, our general stance on the show, with everybody that hosts... generally speaking, is that we're okay with sexy stuff as long as it's mutual, right? You know.
Also, as long as it doesn't literally like break the law, like it's like Snatcher when Katrina was like 14 and they changed the number to 18. Like you know what? Look, yeah, let's not push the fucking 14-year-old.
I'm okay with violence and I'm okay with sexy stuff, but it has to be consensual. And it also has to not be to children, which can't be consensual.
2 in 1 week, baby.
I'm okay with these things being taken out of the game, and also to make me feel like less gross if I want to play this game. But also,
like I actually
what is
do
up
want
with
to play
Japan?
this game, but like I'll do it without child bedtime, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's up with Japan in that they like this stuff. I just don't get it.
So, I know this came up a little while ago with one of Idea Factory's games. They're also sort of notorious for publishing a lot of, like, very fan-service heavy games on, like, the Vita and PS4.
Oh, you mean Idea Fuck?
Yeah. They're the Criminal Girls people, right?
I mean, among other things. I mostly know them for Neptunia, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their most famous series.
Probably their highest profile series.
Yes.
In which the consoles are represented by various anime women. Anyway, so they made a comment about the hubbub following a similar announcement about one of their games being released in the West. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but they basically said after that it would be nearly impossible for them to localize some of their games because the people who they're targeted for, like in order to make the game amenable to anybody else outside of that target demographic in America, that group of people wouldn't play it because they really are into that, that ephebophilia kind of thing.
The moe aesthetic.
There's no way for them to remake this game without basically making it non-existent. It's that skeevy.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it bringing them over to America.
Yeah, it is kind of funny because the people who seek out these games, they know what they are. And they're getting them for that reason. But if you try to make the game more mainstream, you're going to piss off your target demographic, and the mainstream audience isn't going to give a shit about that because it's still too niche for them.
Mm-hmm. The big takeaway that I have in this is I'm okay with the censorship because first of all, a lot of this stuff is very minor, not intended, but very funny. But Probably the thing that I'm most disappointed in is you go into the comments of the announcement on Twitter, and there's just like the worst scum of life in there.
Yeah.
And these people that are like dying on their cross for this stuff.
Well, that's like, I mean, what an appropriate like analogy. Like, I think I said something similar with like on Facebook way back in the day about like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2 or something. I think I said something like, you know,
it was Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Maybe that's what it was for the Wii U.
Yeah,
that is the one actually. Yeah, because I had said something like, you know, on one hand I hate censorship, but on the other hand, like, the boob slider for the little girl is not the hill I'm gonna die on.
Exactly. It's also the Senran Kagura argument too.
They don't even have that problem. They let that shit slide.
Just to be clear, for Xenoblade Chronicles, that was one of the more like unusual cases of this, because I think it was for every female character, or
yes.
for the player character rather, you're not allowed to change your breast size, which is kind of ironic because if you're like a woman who wants to play the game, you know, or if you identify as a woman, then you have fewer options for like constructing your character, and that's like really unfortunate.
Well, yeah, you'd think the player character would be the one thing in the game that you like could adjust everything on.
Yeah, I think it was just the fact that it was in conjunction with a minor, a character who was a minor, in that a female minor, and it was in conjunction with that. I'm okay with a boob slider. Like, I'm I'm more than okay with that. Like, go crazy with that stuff. But when it's in conjunction with minors, it just doesn't have a place.
Yeah, how about no
for me? And yeah, I'm not going to keep harping on this too much more, but I just read some of the comments, and they're like, oh, next we'll have like it'll be like communist China where they're breathing down our necks about everything. It's just like, no, this is self-censorship. First of all, this isn't the government telling us that we can't have this stuff.
My favorite part is that isn't even a slippery slope. It's like, first you cut the panty shots, and then it's full-on dictatorship.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the mentality. What I do get is that something that you like was taken away from you that you have a different opinion on.
Yeah, but like I just love that the logic is like, damn you, making the game literally legal and not violating the law. Like, could it get worse than this? Like, yes, it could.
I guess it's my frame. The thing that I'm most disappointed in is the framing of the argument. Like, I can understand somebody making a case for, hey, this is not... Some people will make the argument that the moe aesthetic and things like that is not about sex, but about cuteness.
Yeah, the whole innocence angle. Like,
I don't agree.
I'm not into that, but I'm not gonna fight you over that.
I mean, that has its own share of like problematic concepts when like involved with adulthood. Because it involves like the fetishization of youthfulness, even for adult women, and that like
like No More Heroes lampoons this like when the game starts, when he's just like, I mean, you know the line, Vice, when he's like when he's got like his hands on the poster, like. Meanwhile, though, there's anime like Little Witch Academia, which is completely like legitimate in its presentation. It's just like, this is a day in the life of, and it's actually a really fun show to watch, and it's not creepily sexual.
I could pick apart this argument all day long, but the framing of it made me feel sick. Yeah. Of the way that the people who were defending the anti-censorship angle. So I'm just gonna put it in that, like, I'm okay with this, and I wish it didn't have to be done in the first place.
Well, I mean, the whole anti-censorship thing is like just a thinly veiled mask for what they really want. You know what it reminds me of is when the She-Ra Netflix cartoon came out.
Oh yeah,
and people were complaining about how She-Ra looked kind of like masculine in her form, but like then you see who's complaining about it, and it's like 30, 35, 40-year-old guys, and it's like, I'm really sorry that you can't jerk off to the children's cartoon, but like it is what it is.
You are 100% correct. I just don't get it. But I would have more respect for the argument if it was honest. That's my position.
I mean, it's like, I think that we should kill people I don't like, and then you delete their posts, like, oh, censorship. It's like, I don't think censorship is the problem, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I could go all day on this, so I'm not going to. I'm going to move on, but if anybody else wants to make a point here, please do.
I guess I'll take a minute, not too long again.
Sure.
Again, this is something that I could do a whole episode on, but
Absolutely.
So it's sort of tied into the first point that we had today. I mean, I know we chose these two as our lead-in items, or you chose these two as our lead-in items for a reason, because they're related to each other.
For the three of you who are still with us, here goes. So go for it, OldManStompy.
Jesus. So, well, I mean, I remember the episode where we told the whole city of Detroit that it was stupid for some reason. We lost like a whole city from our potential fan base.
Oh,
so,
wow, that's deep lore.
We're gonna cast away like all of our pedophiles.
No. That was just the maker of Heavy Rain. We were just making fun of them.
Detroit Become
Human. The David Cage games.
David Cage. We only lost David Cage when we made fun of Detroit.
No Beyond Two Souls. No Heavy Rain. No
Detroit.
No Indigo
Becoming
Prophecy.
Human.
Oh yeah, that's the last one. Okay. So anyway,
was it that David Bowie game?
Well, the Omicron.
Yeah, that's it.
Was that David Cage?
That was his first game, yeah.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, please go on with your point.
Yeah.
So there was you guys remember the story a little while ago. There was a guy who was fired from Google for publishing an article, or rather having an internally circulated memo published sort of against his will.
Yes.
Where he tried to explain that Google shouldn't hire women because they are not as or at least shouldn't hire them to full-time positions as rapidly as they recruit men, because they just weren't acclimated to that kind of work. And like, these are the kinds of, so what was scary about that wasn't just that this guy obviously felt like he was like empowered to write this stupid memo that causes like giant PR disaster for Google, but like also that he had joined with other like highly conservative, at least by American standards, conservative.
He went on Breitbart to talk about
Google,
this.
Yeah, Google employees, who felt the same way, and that they were circulating it on some internal network from which the memo got leaked. That was how it got released to the public in the first place. So these are the same people, like, who these tech people who went out and founded sites like Vote, like 8chan, like Gab, these like just absolute like dumpster fires of social media cesspools, like, where like all just the worst people go to. I can't even like look at the front pages of those sites, and I wouldn't anyway, because it probably puts you on a list. Like,
yeah,
with the FBI.
It's like they claim that they're like similar to libertarians or straight up libertarians, but they're not. They're just basically anarchists.
I was going to say, I wasn't aware that libertarians were like criminals, all of them.
So what I want to get at is that when the guy's name was James Damore, and when he published his memo like to the public, he it came counterintuitive to a study that Google had already done, like an internal thing called Project Aristotle, where they had hired like a breadth of like psychologists and sociologists to study what a good team looked like and what its makeup should look like. And this guy just walked in and acted like he knew better than all these people they had paid thousands of dollars to consult with. So like a lot of the time, he went on Breitbart and claimed that he was censored, that he wasn't allowed to express his viewpoints, that there are people at Google who aren't allowed to express their conservative viewpoints. No, your viewpoints are stupid. Like, that's why nobody wants to hear them. They're not informed, they're not intelligent, they're not developed. They just make you feel good about yourself.
Well, that's the thing. His manifesto wasn't deleted. Just a bunch of people called him a fucking asshole. And like, that's not censorship. That's
also,
just with it, bitch.
Also, it's a big extension of like the mansplaining like issue.
Yeah,
like
we have peer review, but I have an anecdote. So,
exactly. So this reminds me of this thing that happened on Twitter. Obviously, I get my best sources here. But this one you'll be like, okay. So there was like this artist that drew a series of vulva pictures, like just as art, high art,
George O'Keefe.
I've seen this story, but please go on and continue.
So this guy comes on, he's like a PhD, and he goes, "You mean vaginas?" And a female gynecologist goes on and goes, "No, a vagina is internal, a vulva is outside," and like gives him like sources and like shows him
like you
what
even
the
need
difference
to give
is.
Sources for this. It's like,
well, no, like she
I think a woman
she did
knows
it in the best way possible.
Yeah.
She did it in the best way possible is what I'm trying to say. And the guy's just like, "Oh no, I meant colloquially," and it's just like, "No, you didn't, you dick."
But
like,
there's like, I mean, like people talk about mansplaining, but like there will, like in the future, there will never be a better example than a man telling a woman how like women genitalia, like what they are. It's like, dude, like come on.
It's like,
can you imagine that?
What is wrong with you people?
So I know this article was published maybe 3 or 4 years ago that a bunch of biologists had just discovered like the nerve makeup of the clitoris in like 2015. It was like, how much do you want to bet that the entire research group was men and that they had never seen a clitoris in their life? Like who spent money on this, and why didn't you just like actually ask a woman?
I actually have a similar story just happened. I didn't even put it on the notes. So a gamer gear company just came out with like, something, for gamer girls to wear, at competitions, and it's like a straight up like small tight dress, and girls went on and said, "How many women did you have make this and develop this?" And they were like, "None." And they were like, "We want to celebrate women in competitive gaming." Like it was a very like they definitely had this like faux feminist like.
I thought women go to Magic the Gathering tournaments and dress up. I was gonna say like all those women going to Magic the Gathering and Super Smash tournaments are wearing like Dead or Alive cosplay the whole time.
And the girls are like, we would like just a shirt that's cut for us. Like, you don't need to make us a fucking dress.
I think if you want to make women happy, give them pants with fucking working pockets, and like they'll love you forever.
Give them choice, and also have a woman design it, so it comes with the perspective, like that you need. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got off on my high horse here.
No, it's fine. I definitely got you like back into the fold after you were ready to get rid of the topic.
It's okay. I hope I didn't derail you too much. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say? I just got impassioned. I'm sorry.
I mean, that was basically it. I just wanted to double click on the thing that you said before, that a lot of the time when people go on Twitter or whatever and they think that they're personally being censored, really just like they personally didn't get exactly what they want for some like greater purpose, and if you like take like 30 seconds to think about how this looks from like a 30,000 foot view to like anybody other than your personal perspective, maybe you would understand why this decision had to be made. It's not like draconian censorship. It's that like what you're like is actively harmful to like human socialization.
Yeah,
I agree. Well, I think there's good points all around. I really like what both of you have to say on these things, because they are always well thought. Mm-hmm. So this is why I wanted to bring these things up. I know you guys already have a similar perspective to me, but hearing it from your perspectives as well, with your careful thoughts on the matter, is refreshing. And hopefully, if you listen to what we said, and hopefully this resonates with you as to why these things are a problem. Anybody else have anything else to say on those things before we get to some stuff that isn't so heavy?
It's not so heavy, but there's still a surprisingly smooth segue into it.
I would love to move on to anything else.
Okay, so after a DOA debacle at EVO Japan, EVO announced their lineup with DOA 6 completely missing from it, and also Melee, which are two big kerfuffles in their own right for different reasons.
Well, yeah, the DOA 6 thing is a damn shame, because that's probably going to be like
a brand new AAA
thing,
game,
like with Samurai Showdown and stuff like that, like these grand entrances.
Yeah, it makes me wonder which of the games is the game that got let onto the schedule.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's like Under Night in Birth or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
Evo, like really?
Well, what that game is, that's the game that's the spiritual successor to Melty Blood, I believe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that is definitely an underground game that's descended from a Dojin fighting
Melty Blood
game.
Was Japan only.
and a Dojin game at one point.
Yeah. Although it did hit PS2, I believe.
It transcended being a Dojin game, but it originally was.
Isn't it like the Fate Stay stuff? Wasn't that some sort of like
it's related
thing like that? But the Fate Stay stuff has become like way more mainstream.
Well, the Fate Stay stuff started off as a Dojin visual novel.
Yeah, there you go. And it got bigger and bigger. It got like a full anime series. It's got.
It's huge. You can't even follow it. It's gigantic, and there's so many titles and things that are involved with it, side stories and side chronologies and things like that. Blaze Blue, I would believe, I 100% believe was already there. Soul Calibur, 100%
Blaze Blue has been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the newest version. It's cross tag battle.
Okay. Which by the way includes Under Night and Birth.
Soul Calibur 6, there's no problem with that being in there. That's normal. Mortal Kombat 11, Tekken 7.
Of course.
Smash Brothers Ultimate. Fighter Z is the dominant fighting game right now, so that would be insane if that game wasn't in there.
I know it's getting old now, but I want to see Virtua Fighter again.
Or Fighters.
It's so fun
I'm
to
sorry.
watch those.
Fighters, I called it wrong.
Fighters.
I would love Virtua Fighter as well, but Sega needs to step up and come out with a new version of it.
Now, by the way, regarding when you were saying like, oh, I saw this piece of news and the comments really pissed me off, like for Zanki Zero, that's how I felt about the idea that people are not taking well to Melee being removed. It's fucking 18. Get over it. Jesus Christ. And
it's like having Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Not even Super Turbo. Street Fighter 2 Turbo still in this.
I understand keeping Melee when Brawl was out, because Brawl had tripping, which is the dumbest shit ever. The Wii U... They had the Wii U as well as Melee, didn't they, for previous EVOs?
Yeah, they had it last year. They had both
even
Melee.
Then, Melee should have been dropped. I love Melee, but get the fuck over it. It's like... It's a
we don't even have a modern version of it. You have to play it on a CRT to get it right.
I'm sure they do. I mean, I doubt... CRTs are no doubt in...
No, but this is what my point is. The technology is so goddamn old.
Yeah.
And we have a good game. Ultimate is a good game. It is like the best Smash Brothers they've made. Yeah. And you could probably make an argument that Melee is better, but you only like it because you picked it apart so goddamn much that you use all these glitches and stuff and made it part of the game.
Wave dashing was never meant to be a thing. It's interesting that it exists, but like, okay.
But anyway.
And half the characters are clones anyway.
Yes. Well, you can make that argument for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but...
Well, there are 75 characters, dude. They're not all clones. Like, with Melee, like, a third of the cast is clones.
Yeah. But this is good. Samurai Showdown is going to be on the lineup,
too. Yeah, I'm pretty hyped about that. There hasn't been Samurai Showdown, like, a 2D fighter Samurai Showdown since, like, PS2/Wii. And even then, that was an anthology collection. Yeah, no, there hasn't been a 2D Samurai Showdown since 5 special, I think, or 6. No,
was there a 6?
I think that isn't the new one 6. I mean, I don't know if it's a number,
it's just
but
called
I think
Samurai
the new one
Showdown.
is the 6th one. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only ones in between that were 3D ones that were never any good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's cool that they brought... No, there was a 6. I forgot.
Oh, really?
There was a 6, yeah.
Oh, wait, no, you're right. I think that was actually on the anthology. Yeah, that's my bad.
Okay.
I remember this.
So this is the 7th.
The final boss of 6 was like a super version of the final boss from 4. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. So, this was on the Taito... or was this on Atomus Wave? Yeah, this was on Atomus Wave back in the day. So anyway, that wasn't considered one of the better titles either. So I'm looking forward to a new good Samurai Showdown. But anyway, and it's also a very different fighting game from any of the other games on the list. It's slower paced.
Yeah, it's definitely slower paced, where hits do like a lot of damage. If you like, it does that thing where when you hit a guy with a heavy shot, like it holds the shot for a second, and then the guy goes back and takes a bunch of damage. I don't know what you had to do for this, but it was almost like Guilty Gear before Guilty Gear, where you could just like kill a guy in the middle of the match. Like I remember when I was playing, I think it was like 3 in the arcade, and I was button mashing. I didn't know what I was doing. I just fucking cut a guy in half, like
Yep.
just in the middle of the match. I was like, what?
Now, the biggest issue that I find here is that I really wish DOA was on there, and I understand why it's not. You know, Koei Tecmo screwed the pooch with their presentation, and they deserve to be punished. But also, this is going to be a major fighting game, and it's a AAA title, and a lot of development went into it, and also like a lot of a lot of people play this series, so it's a shame that it's not that the maybe they're just taking it off for 1 year. Maybe it'll be back next year, which is probably what's happening. They're putting them in jail.
Yeah.
But that also means their sales are very much going to suffer, because nobody in the fighting game community is going to play a game that doesn't have a tournament. They're not going to waste their time training for something that isn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I understand it, and I agree in punishment of what happened, because it was a crazy thing that happened, and also it should never happen again. But it just stinks. The situation stinks. Yeah. Is the thought. Any other thoughts on this story?
Just that it's too bad, because DOA can actually be a lot of fun to watch, because I think you can counter like everything in the game, like high, medium, and low attacks. So like,
I like playing it.
It becomes like almost not rock paper scissors, but like it becomes very psychological. Like, what would it make sense for the opponent to do, and should I do something first?
Sure. How about you, OldManStompy?
I mean, I have no like personal attachment to Evo, except that they'll probably announce what will probably wind up being like a 3rd or 4th Smash Brothers DLC character during the event, so that'll be exciting. But otherwise,
Yeah, I'm just in it for Street Fighter. I just like watching it.
Yeah, Street Fighter 5 is, by a lot of people's standards, by a lot of the fighting games community standards, is finally shaped up.
I was gonna say for a while they thought that 4 was the better one, and 5 had a pretty weak release in terms of just technical gameplay.
Okay, well, we'll move on. There's plenty of stories here. So, Darius Cosmic Collection just released. I've been talking about this one for a while, and its stupid way of releasing. But people are finally getting their copies, and the extra games are on the cartridge, which is kind of cool.
Marvelous.
But they did one more dick thing. If it couldn't have been done worse, they released one extra bonus game for Amazon.jp Prime members, which I didn't know about. So I'm the kind of guy who shelled out the extra money for the Cosmic Collection special release so I could get the extra games, even though I hated the way they were doing it, just because I wanted to support the release of the game and the company that made M2 that made it and the series, and they screwed me over in another way that I didn't know about until after it was released. So that sucks. It's a minor game. It is a port of one of the Game Boy games in this series. I'm not going to play it, but damn, if I want to get a full release of something, I wanted the full release.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say about that. I haven't got mine in the mail yet from PlayAsia, but it should be coming pretty soon. Let's see here. Terra Onion finally updated officially their SSDS3 to have actual audio and video fixes. For a long time, the company denied that there was any problem, or that their the quote from them on Twitter was the quality couldn't be measured, which these are all mathematically calculated things. They can be like all the audio and video levels and all the electronics that goes into it are all very much math based, so yes, they can. So they actually went back and fixed it, so the people that buy it from now on will not need to do what I needed to do, which was have somebody mod it to fix it. So thankfully that happened. It still kind of stinks that I had to pay like $100 to get mine back to that quality. after sinking $300 into it. That's pretty beat. But at least they're doing it for future people, which I'm happy for. And they all this was tested by third parties. They said that the quality was where it needed to be. So Firebrand X was the one who verified it, so you know it's good.
Star Ocean is a pretty cool game too, and I would imagine most people will be playing it via emulation through some fashion. So,
that's a different story.
Yeah.
So yes, so the SD to SNES got an official firmware update. That's what OldManStompy is referring to. So this is one of the very last special chips that needed to be emulated on the SD to SNES. There are 2 games that use this: Star Ocean 1 and Street Fighter Alpha 2. Street Fighter Alpha 2 should not even run on the Super Nintendo. It's a marvel that it does.
It's a Capcom.
What?
It's
Capcom. Marvel. Oh god. Anyway, this is really awesome. It basically means that there are 3 special chips that are not emulated by the SD to SNES. One of them is probably going to be worked on, and it has 1 game, and it's a good game. It's the Far East of Eden Zero, or Tengai Makio Zero, which has a fan translation. It's a popular RPG by Hudson. It's not popular in the West, but very popular in Japan. Most of the games in the series were actually on the PC Engine. But this was a very good game, and it had like a real-time clock, I think. So it had its own special chip. So that is the last game that means anything. There are 2 final chips that are used for some high-level mahjong games. For their AI components, they needed some really high-functioning chips in there in order to work out their expert levels for their AI. But you know what? Nobody wants those, not even Japan. So I'm not upset if those never get emulated.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like the mahjong simulators and the Yakuza games are more advanced than the ones that you can play on the Super Nintendo. But you never know. There might be some there might be some quirk about it that we're selling short.
Well, here's the thing. The original SD to SNES can't emulate those chips. The FPGA on it does not have enough memory in it. So it cannot be emulated on the old one. Now, the SD to SNES Pro, which is coming out very soon, will have that ability if it's programmed into it. So it'll probably happen. At any rate. So we'll probably have the entire Super Nintendo experience perfect on a flash card, which is awesome. It hasn't been done before. Let's see here. The Vita is officially dead in terms of production. The Vita just stopped production of hardware in Japan. I'm surprised it took this long, to be honest, but Japan is usually the last to stop production on things like that. So, end of an era. I actually just started playing my PS Vita again because I picked up Danganronpa 2 again, and that's where I had my game started. I have it other places on Steam and stuff, but I didn't want to lose the time. So, still a great system. It's just it's been succeeded by other platforms, notably the Switch. Let's see here. Travis Strikes Again gets its first DLC, which is Black Dandelion, which is
Shinobu, right?
Shinobu's DLC. She's added into the New Game Plus, I believe. You can use her as a character, a player character.
So we also covered that it had a patch like 7 days after it came out that like enhanced the story quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So the Day 7 patch. Mm-hmm. So did we talk about that during a previous episode?
I don't believe so. Please inform the audience.
So I don't really want to talk that much about the story of Travis Strikes Again if you guys plan on playing it, because I know you're big fans. I know especially Lotus is a big fan of Suda51's games.
Sure.
But we talked about how there was content added to the PC release of Killer 7 that implies the game takes place in the same universe.
Yeah.
And so there was also content added to Travis Strikes Again, like a week after it came out. Like, so in the opening cinematic, now reveals that it was all Dan Smith's fault.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I heard something about that. Like, the crossover with Dan, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so,
cool.
Yeah, so, like, again, that's the opening cinematic, so I don't really feel like it's too far out of the... Like, literally the first thing you see in the game.
What's really cool
yeah.
is they keep adding new T-shirts to the game.
Yeah, from old indie... Or not old, but indie games.
Yeah, well, not the most recent one was the Jet Grind Radio shirt, which is really cool. Jet Set Radio shirt. So they got Sega's permission, which is pretty neat.
Right. Yeah, so I noticed they had like a Pikuniku shirt in there, which is like a really recent indie title that definitely came out like around the time this game was in development. Yeah. Could not have been known about before, like while they were still working on the game itself.
Oh wait, did they have like a? Maybe I'm misremembering, but did they have a Deadly Premonition shirt?
I believe so. I think
amazing.
I think he and Swery get along pretty well.
That is way too cool.
Which is really cool. Yeah. This is awesome. I mean, if they keep adding stuff, I assume that means the game is doing well, and I hope so, because he hinted as much that this is the testing ground for if he can do a No More Heroes 3,
right.
Which I very much want. So please.
Yeah, I would love to see an HD No More Heroes that's not just one remastered again, which is really cool, but I would love to see a new designed for HD No More Heroes.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Please support this game. It seems like they are putting the ultimate effort into it. They're adding content and adding meaningful content to it for free, which is really neat. It's definitely a service of a game, just like a lot of Nintendo's games have been recently.
Oh, so that's that. Let's take a step back on that one again. So, service is a game people think about like Square Enix and their like endless DLC content, like their paid DLC for like Final Fantasy 15 and games like that. For Nintendo, a lot of the time the DLC is free, and like that's when they say game as a service, they mean like they will service the game for you for no additional cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this game is like that. It did have paid DLC, but it came free with the physical edition.
Right.
But a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is free stuff that they did not charge you for. It's included with an update, so really cool stuff. Some other minor releases, but I did want to talk about them. You have Versus Ice Climber came out for the Switch, which actually is the ultimate version of Ice Climber. It has extra levels, which is kind of cool, and additional enemies and additional levels. It is still a crap game.
I was just going to say, finally, the definitive Ice Climber experience.
I was very surprised to see this because I remember you very specifically recommending people not to play Ice Climbers during some previous episode of the podcast.
Yeah, well, I don't know why I remember that. It was when we were talking about the NES Classic. He was listing all these cool games for it and Ice Climber.
Yeah, so I think it's cool that they're releasing it because it's an obscure version of the game. This is the arcade version of an NES game, and we've never seen ports of these. So they have the Versus version of Urban Champion. Am I going to say that version is the definitive version of Urban Champion? But goddamn, don't buy it.
The purest fighting game ever made.
I mean, Ice Climber, I would rather people see buy because it's at least interesting. But I mean, Urban Champion, you buy that as a joke and you laugh at it while you're doing it. But yeah. Let's see. King of Fighters 2003 was released on Switch as well. On a very good game. Let me see here. Oh, Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove released, which is pretty cool. Most people are saying that it is a good sequel to the original game. Maybe not as modern as some people may want it, but very much feels like a successor to the first game.
I just hope they still have incredibly dated terms for how cool you are, like Rap Master. Yeah.
So some people are saying it's really good. Some people are saying it's mediocre. But I'm sure if you're a fan of the first game, you'll be okay. And you'll be well served. It's better than the other sequels that have happened in between.
Do they still have a carrot who mysteriously could tell what your present is? Just a walking carrot man?
Maybe. I'm sure he's in there.
They have a fat opera lady who clears the screen by singing when you pay her
Lotus.
$3.
Lotus, I want to move on, please.
Do they have a dentist who chases you?
Sagata Sanchiro showed up for a 25th anniversary event for the Sega Saturn in Japan.
That's cool.
This is cool.
Does he still beat your ass if you don't play Sega Saturn?
He just beats your
Even
ass.
though it's like a dead system.
That's literally his entire character.
I know. Does he still do it?
I'm sure he does.
Because canonically, he died saving the world from a missile or something, in one of his commercials.
He was back in. He wasn't saving the world. He was saving specifically Sega headquarters.
I love the idea
which
that
is being
someone's
torn down, by the way.
Sega headquarters, and
which is being torn down, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
Sega's original corporate building is being torn down as we speak.
Oh no! Even Sega Sanshiro can't stop, or Sega Sanshiro can't stop that. Was he block a bulldozer or something, or a wrecking ball?
I mean, the actor Fujioka is 73 at this point. I don't think he'll be doing.
I repeat my question.
Construction equipment.
All right, I'm done. Wii U free-to-play RPG, multiplayer RPG Lost Reavers is getting taken off May 30th and therefore lost to time. This was a game. This was probably this was a game released by Bandai Namco, which was very interesting. It was just one of those things that showed up on the store one day, and I was very surprised that it was in English. But apparently people liked it for what it was, even though it was glitchy as hell. So kind of stinks. It was a glitchy, imperfect game, but people had fun playing it, apparently.
I guess they must have, if it made it all the way through, the shutdown of the Wii shop, right?
A lot of the Wii U shop has not shut down.
A lot of the Wii services, though, we expect them to be on their last legs now that Nintendo is shifting, and even the 3DS is barely supported as a system anymore, aside from the shop being open and a couple of sort of minor releases. So the fact that it made it this far before being shut down is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a free-to-play game, so, I mean, if you have a Wii U and you want to plug it in and, play it for a month, please do. I mean, apparently it's pretty fun. And some dedicated people were still playing it. I'm sure something like, the PSO fan servers will come up for this at some point. I just believe that. It's especially for, a game that, is beloved by a certain community. I mean, they have a Shrek community that is supporting the Shrek Battle Royale game.
Oh, that's right. Apparently the game's decent.
Apparently, there are tier lists and shit for that game. Anyway, there's a big fan community that mods it and does all kinds of crazy shit to it. Anyway, Bard's Tale 3 was finally added to the complete trilogy. So when you bought this game, I believe it came with the first game and it updated to have the second game, and it updated to have the third just recently. But these are complete remakes of the original Bard's Tale games, which were legendary RPGs back in the day. And apparently they have all kinds of really nice modern conveniences, and the UI improvements and things like that are uniform now as well across all the games to have a really good experience. So really cool for people that like this kind of thing, and probably a good place to start because the Bard's Tale games are really fun, and apparently people really like these remakes. So let's see here. One last one here from me. Konami apparently has a 50th anniversary collection rated on Australia's content service, kind of like the ESRB, their version of the ESRB. Mm-hmm. So this is the only leak of this. We do not know what's on it. It's apparently arcade games, so God only knows what they're going to include on this, whether it's old Konami games, newer Konami games, newer 90s ones. I absolutely don't believe that Simpsons or X-Men is going to be there on there, or Bucky O'Hare, but probably some what I'm going to guess is it's probably a lot of their earlier titles, like ER Kung Fu, Gradius, maybe 1 and 2. They're probably not going to, maybe some Time Pilot, Scramble, that kind of thing. When they usually do this kind of thing, they do their early titles. Which is a shame because a lot of their early 90s titles are the ones that are underrepresented. But I'll be happy to see anything come out of Konami, and a new collection from them is a good thing. So hopefully they get some of the more obscure titles on there that haven't gotten a decent port.
Come on, Metal Gear Solid arcade game.
And somebody put in something here about DMC5. I'll let you talk about that.
That was me. This was the funniest thing that I've seen all week. So,
Wow.
so DMC5 Deluxe has an option, and you can buy it for I think $4 as DLC if you buy the base version of the game. So, did you guys actually watch the video attached to this article?
No, I don't know.
So,
I didn't get a chance to.
So, before cutscenes are sent to the 3D team for modeling, there's like a prop team that acts them out with like cardboard props and like green screens. And so you have, if for $4 or for buying the deluxe version, you are allowed to watch that version of the game in place of all of the cutscenes. And they have this like incredible hype video where like a bunch of random Japanese people that look like they're filming in a warehouse, making a student film, in like high school, are like acting out all the cutscenes of DMC5 like idiots. They look like they're having a blast.
Stuntmen.
That's my wife. She says they're stuntmen. They're probably not actual stuntmen. They don't appear to. So the guy playing Dante is like literally walking around reading a script.
Nice.
They're oftentimes using like the action figures for like Nero and Dante, like with like green screened actors superimposed over it, like doing the crazy flips and stuff.
That's
and
great.
It looks unbelievable. So I mean, obviously it's not what people. So they seem to be selling the story of DMC5, like the actual legitimate serious story, pretty hard. That you learn a lot about the lore of the universe, and a lot of like Dante's backstory. From some of the trailers they've released. So it's
Does
nice
the game
to know
feature
that,
Dante from Devil May Cry?
It does in fact feature Dante from Devil May Cry. You'd think that it would be obvious, but we've already...
not all of them have featured Dante. All right. Well, Nero was like the main character 4, right?
Well, yeah, 4 was
played...
featuring Dante.
But that was the thing though. You started out as Nero, and then when you got tired of him, you had to play Dante for the whole like second half of the game.
Right.
And the second half of the game, which is the first half of the game backwards. That was nice.
And then all of a sudden, you had to play as Nero for the very final boss fight after you've been playing as Dante for the last like 5 or 6 hours.
Yep.
So yes, you should not take for granted that you play as Dante in a Devil May Cry game. Certainly, like the most recent the DMC Devil May Cry game, people have all kinds of fun making fun of the character who claims to be Dante. The
fuck you, Dante. Don't.
Yeah,
Dante. They
the
call
emotional
him Dante.
teen nominally known as Dante.
I actually like that game.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot, but it took itself very seriously. Ninja Theory games do take themselves very seriously.
Sure.
And Capcom has, with this announcement and other like material released relating to Devil May Cry 5, been very clear that this is not that kind of game. It is definitely like over the top, super fun action.
Nice.
So that's exciting.
Nice.
Noise.
All right. Well, we covered some ground this episode. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? And Minty Mitts?
Yeah, apparently.
No, she only appears when I say something that's like blatantly incorrect. It's live fact checking. So I'd like to take like 2 minutes just to shout out rest in peace Luke Perry, who passed away today.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Very sad.
And I found out about this because his son is a professional wrestler who was hired by that All Elite Wrestling promotion that I've been talking about a couple of weeks ago. So he was apparently a huge fan of his son's profession, and there's a lot of like charming photos that are cropping up on social media of him like in the background in the audience while his son is performing in front of a crowd of like 100 people at an armory or like a small auditorium. It's like pretty. It's good to know that he was supportive of his son's like very unusual endeavors, and that I'm sad that he's gone.
All accounts say that he was a good human being, and also had a really good sense of humor about himself on top of it. So, it's sad to see anybody die way too young. He was only 54, I believe.
52.
52,
and he's on a current hit show. He's on Riverdale. I believe he's one of the teachers or something. It's really a shame, and he looked like he was in good shape too. He just had a massive stroke. Probably genetic, unfortunately. Big shame. So yeah, definitely rest in peace. Any other final words, folks?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, well, if you want to be disappointed in humanity, please check us for next week. That's the show. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting access to exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, which, by the way, now that Doki Doki Literature Club is finished, new Patreon-sponsored game coming up soon, and finally get involved in a discussion with me and other patrons in Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on most major gaming social media networks as OldManStompy, except for Steam. I am on Twitter, but I do try to avoid the comments in case it isn't abundantly clear from Vice's segments today why you should do that.
I really should avoid the comments because, god damn it, they rile me up.
I mean, that's why they're there for.
They really get your goat.
They're playing a game and they're winning, and you're losing, and all of humanity is losing.
I wish I could remove all political stuff from Twitter, and I just had like the fun video game stuff that I have it on there for. But even that is tainted by bullshit. So yeah. Ugh. Well,
until next time, everyone.
Da 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 da.
Cheers.
We'll catch you.